friends, welcome back to my channel where I share intentional rhythms for motherhood, simple living, and our journey learning to homestead where we're at on our tiny quarter-acre lot in the city. In today's video, I'm going to share my process for bulk prepping a week's worth of from-scratch breakfast options in one afternoon. I highly value feeding my kids delicious and from-scratch meals where I can control the ingredients and how it's made, but I was finding that as a mom of young kids, breakfast especially can often feel really overwhelming to get a yummy from-scratch meal on the table at a reasonable time when everyone just wants to be held at the same time, and then the toddlers get hangry if the process takes longer than expected. Maybe that's just my kids, but I'm guessing not. So I decided to try out bulk prepping some meals to see if that was a rhythm that helped alleviate some stress and help us solve that issue with a simple solution. Keep watching to see how I tackled that and all of the tips that I learned along the way. If you're new around here, hi, I'm KyAnn. I'm a wife and mom of 3 kiddos, currently 4 and under, and I'm so passionate about intentional motherhood, finding rhythms to help me slow down while also getting done the things that need to be accomplished, and finding joy in the mundane of it all. Homemaking, homesteading, biblical motherhood, and all things simple living are a few of the things I love to share here in this space, and if you like that kind of thing, I'd love for you to subscribe and follow along. If you're not new around here, I'm so grateful for every video that you spend with me, so thank you so much for coming back for this one. As I've grown in my cooking from scratch journey, because cooking from scratch is really like the ultimate way to start homesteading where you are. I talk a lot about backyard homesteading and different things that you can do no matter what your space is. But cooking from scratch is something that you can do whether you live in an apartment, whether you live on 7 acres, whether you live on 1,000 acres. It doesn't matter where you live. You can cook from scratch. You can learn to cook from scratch. And this, I feel like, is kind of like the baseline level of being more sustainable and learning old-fashioned skills. So many of us desire to start homesteading in some capacity, to be better connected with our food and where it comes from, to learn some of these skills that have just really gone untapped in previous generations as they've just gotten lost in the last several generations, honestly. Things like gardening and cooking from scratch and raising your own animals and meat. And some of those things you may not be able to do where you're at currently with your property. I know that's true for us. There's a lot of things we really desire to do and we love to do, but we can't do yet. But cooking from scratch, you can do. So I've really leaned into that a lot. Hi friends. Okay, I'm popping in really quick to talk to you about something I am so passionate about. So you guys know that I share a lot about natural living and just different holistic practices to bring natural health into our family. Specifically, I obviously talk about homesteading and simple living, cooking from scratch, that sort of thing. But actually, our journey with natural wellness started before the homesteading. The homesteading came after. It really started in our journey of infertility. That was personally what started it for us. Getting into low tox living, looking into the ingredients that are in so many products in our homes, in our body care, our health care products, and then getting into the ingredients that are in our food and all that. And it was a slow process, so don't be overwhelmed if you're interested in natural living and switching out a lot of the products that your family uses. Take it one step at a time. Let me just say that first of all, because that's what we did. We just took it slowly, one step at a time, or it can get really overwhelming. But I really value when other moms share products and companies that they really trust and that they actually use in their homes to support their natural wellness. So I want to start sharing a little bit more about that here on this channel, because I've gotten a lot of messages of a lot of you who are newer to getting into natural living, wanting to find less toxic replacements for a lot of the things in your home, and so I want to start sharing about that. And one of the companies I really want to share with you is Earthly Wellness. They are incredible. We have started using some of their tinctures specifically, and we absolutely love them so far. My kids take them. They take these tinctures. We have tried all sorts of things from, you know, modern regular medication. We've done that over the years. We've done lots of different supplements and different herbs and different things like that that you can do, and we still do kind of a wide variety of things. But if you have toddlers or kids, you know how hard it is to get them to eat something that is gross, and my toddlers will take this no questions asked. They will take the drops in their water with no complaints. I don't have to mix it with juice. I don't have to mix it with anything. They'll just drink it straight and it does not bother them, and they'll actually just take it straight in their mouth. I can just drop the drops into their mouth, no complaints whatsoever. It is amazing. So that is the #1 reason I recommend it. We especially love their elderberry elixir. We use that, I don't know if that's how you say it, I think so. We use that every single day in their water to help with with immune boosting, and we also love the Cough Be Gone one, and that helps a lot obviously if you have a cough or a pesky cough that won't go away, dry cough, any of those kind of things. It's just super helpful to have on hand before you actually get sick. We also love the Feel Better Fast one. They have so many, so you can go check out their website. They have all sorts of different tinctures, they have herbal remedies, they have different lotions you can use. There's a magnesium lotion that I really want to try for myself and the kids. They have a huge range of products. They have vitamins and minerals, different things like that. So go check out their website, and I will put my link down below so that you can get an extra discount on top of your purchase. I know you guys are going to love this brand. They're just a really wholesome family brand that you can actually trust, that has quality ingredients in their products, which is so important to me. So thank you so much, and we'll get back to the video. Cooking from scratch is kind of what started it all for me, starting with sourdough really. And so as I've grown in my cooking from scratch journey over the past few years, I feel like I've just wanted to learn more and more. And so for a long time, I never made any from scratch breakfast options really. We had really simple breakfast options, like, you know, yogurt and granola, or just eggs, oatmeal, very simple basic things that I could come up with in just a few minutes, just kind of pull it together. And honestly, the majority of the time, that's still what we do. We make a from scratch dinner every single day. We usually make either a big from scratch lunch that can last us through the week with the leftovers, or we use leftovers from dinner as our lunch. That's kind of the majority of how we handle lunches. And then breakfast typically are pretty simple options, but especially in the winter, as I have had a little bit more time when I'm not out in the garden and with the animals, and you know, I just feel like there is a little more time to be inside because it gets dark earlier. You just cozy up inside a little bit more. The days are a little bit slower as far as the evenings go anyways. And so I've had a lot more time to try a lot of new recipes, and something that I've been doing is trying a new breakfast option most weeks. I go through seasons of this. I'm very intentional about just being clear on what season I'm in. So in seasons that are busier or we have a lot of extra responsibilities on our plate, I'm really intentional most of the time. Obviously, I'm not perfect and there's so much grace, but I try to be really intentional to not try a lot of new recipes. That's a way that you can alleviate some stress if you are in a really overwhelming or just really busy and full season. Taking away some of those extra decisions, like trying new meals, can be a way that you can alleviate that. But right now, I'm not in that season. I have extra time, and this is something that I really enjoy doing. I feel like it's kind of a hobby for me, trying new recipes and learning and getting better, because, you know, there's a lot of meals I've made a ton of times at this point, but venturing out and trying new options takes time too. Like, you're not just gonna try something one time and have it turn out perfectly, or at least that's not the case for me. And you'll see some of that even in this video, because some of the recipes I'm filming while I'm trying them for the first time, which I usually don't do, but I'm going to share with you what I learned about that as well. So the first breakfast option that I'm working on here is sourdough pita pockets. So I whipped up this dough the day before and it fermented for 24 hours, all of those things. We like to long ferment as many things as possible in our house because my husband is gluten-free, and so the longer it ferments, the easier it is for him to process. We actually still use sourdough, even though he's gluten-free. We use regular flour in our sourdough, but we long ferment everything, and it breaks it down and makes it a lot more easily digestible for him, and he's able to tolerate it really well. There are definitely different circumstances, and it totally depends on, you know, your allergies and your health specifically on whether that will work for you, but it has worked for us for a few years now. And so we try to make almost anything that we can sourdough for the health benefits, but also because my husband can tolerate it really well, and using sourdough is a lot cheaper than buying tons and tons of gluten-free flour. So I'm working on sourdough pita pockets. This is the first time that I have made this. As I mentioned, I have a few recipes that I'm making for the first time, so you will see as we go throughout the video how it turns out. But you roll them into little balls, and I doubled this recipe so that I had 16 different pita pockets. And then I'm rolling them out into basically a small circle, and you want them about 1/4 inch thick. So I'm going through and rolling all of those out and getting those ready. Then they will sit here on the table for a few hours while they rise and get a little bit poofy. My plan with these is to go ahead and prep the pita pockets, get them all baked and ready to go, and then I'm going to keep them and set them aside, and I'm actually going to fill them with breakfast items. So I'm going to fill them with eggs and ham and cheese and maybe some onions as well. You could also add in sausage if you wanted to. You could really add whatever you would like, but I'm going to stuff that inside of the pita pocket and then bake them. So for what I specifically am planning, I'm going to prep the dough part in this video, and then the actual day of, when we come to bake it, I'm gonna fill it at that point then. So I know that there still is a little bit of prep work on this one, but I think it's still gonna save me a lot of time to have this ready, and then I just have to fill them quickly and put them in the oven. Also, if you wanted to, you could definitely go ahead and fill them and bake them and then freeze them, or keep them in the fridge if you wanted to as well. I just chose not to do that in this video, but it would still fit into the time portion that I'm talking about of an afternoon if you wanted to do it that way. So I'm getting the oven ready so that I can put the pita pockets in the oven, and I'm going to get started next on starting my next breakfast item that I'm going to be prepping, which is a sourdough Dutch baby with apples. So we have made sourdough Dutch babies before, and honestly, our family was not the biggest fan of it. I didn't mind it. I wasn't obsessed with it, but I didn't mind it. But none of my kids really loved it. A Dutch baby is kind of like a pancake, but I would say it's a little bit denser than a pancake and a little more moist. It's yummy, it's just different, it's different. And so I've made sourdough Dutch babies before. They ate them, but they weren't necessarily like thrilled about them. But I've heard a lot of people talk about Dutch babies being a super easy, quick option and just really delicious. And so I was like, I want to try it a little bit of a different way. So we're incorporating the apples. There's a lot of brown sugar and cinnamon and nutmeg in this recipe, and I'm adding that all together, mixing it all together to make a really, really sweet, yummy, like cozy Dutch baby. I'm very excited to try it this way, and since I'm recording this voiceover after, I can let you know it was absolutely delicious. It turned out so good. My kids that barely ate it before ate the entire thing in one sitting. So definitely recommend this one. So I'm getting all the apples cut up so that I can have those ready to go, because that's the main thing I'm going to start with. I got some butter going in the cast iron skillet, and I put that inside of the oven so that it can melt it while the oven preheats. And then I'm getting these apples cut up, and that will go next into the cast iron.
Yesterday there was sun and there was rain, beauty in the mundane. And as the light startled our eyes, we let go of disguise. And now there's something in the air and a sparkly shimmer on our skin, restoring everything within. Oh, dreamy, breezy we go, easy, easy on our tiptoes, undercover agents of the other, beyond gravel, beyond all. Hand in hand, building castles out of sand, reaching for the grand. As willows align, we lose track of time. Head up high, now we climb.
When you are prepping meals like this where you're doing several different things at once, I found it's a lot of back and forth. So I like to write out my recipes beforehand, write out exactly what I want to make, because otherwise it's kind of hard to keep track in your brain of like, oh, I could use this little pocket of time while the first thing is baking to be prepping this next thing. If you don't have it written out, I found it's just a little more complicated and takes more brain capacity that I just don't have. So I write it out in a note on my phone, the different meals that I want to use, and then I have the recipes really easily accessible as well. And then it's a lot of going back and forth. So this Dutch baby is in the oven now and it's baking, and I am now prepping my next meal, which is a baked apple oatmeal. And so I'm getting the eggs together, there's milk, I'm stirring this all together, getting the seasonings together, and getting the first part of this prepped while the Dutch baby finishes baking. This baked oatmeal is another really easy option. It's definitely something you could make same day if you don't want to prep things like I'm doing in this video, but also it stores in the fridge really well. So you can go ahead and bake it and then store it in the fridge. I like to just get it out and then put it in the cast iron and turn the oven on something really low, like 250, and leave it in there for like 5 to 10 minutes to just get it warmed up, and it tastes like it was just made. Honestly, that works really well for us, and then it's super simple to grab the next day. Okay, now the apples are done baking in the oven for the Dutch baby. So I am pouring over the rest of the combination of things. So there's sourdough in there, there's the different seasonings, there's eggs, all of that I'm pouring right over the top of the apples and the butter that was already baking in the oven for a few minutes. And then we're gonna put that whole thing inside of the oven and it's gonna finish baking. Okay, now the pita pockets have had a little bit, so they've been able to rise a little bit and get a little poofy. So I'm going to start cooking them. I had the oven preheated, so I went ahead and just put them right into the cast iron. Obviously, this was after the Dutch baby came out, so I rinsed that out and got the next thing moving. So that's helpful to just wash things out quickly as they're going so that you have it ready for the next item when you're bulk prepping like this. But I'm going to put them back in the oven and let them bake. They only take a few minutes to bake, so we're going to watch them closely, and they're supposed to poof up a little bit. So we will see what happens here. That's the ideal, though, is that they're supposed to poof up a little bit and create this little pocket where you can then insert whatever fillings you want. You could do like a pizza pocket, you could do, you know, the eggs and like a breakfast item thing with sausage and cheese and ham, like I had mentioned, all different varieties, or I mean, so many different things. You could do something sweet. That would be really fun to do. I actually like a Nutella and banana. That would actually be really yummy and different. I don't know, that'd be fun to try too. So after this first round, you can see I'm taking them out. Mine did not poof up quite as much as I would have liked. So the next time that I do this, I'm gonna tweak a few things. I'll link the pita pocket recipe that I used down below. I think that I actually rolled mine out too thin, so I think that prevented them from getting as poofy as they could have. And then some of them you'll probably see later in the video. Actually, I had one of them that burned a little bit because it was just way too thin. And then when I was picking it up, because they were already too thin, they stretched out more and got even thinner. So I will be careful to not get them any thinner than 1/4 of an inch next time, because I think they do need to be a little bit thicker, and the ones that were the right thickness actually turned out really perfectly. So that's something to note with that. Now I'm coming back to the baked oatmeal, and I'm combining the oats and the different seasonings that I need. I already combined the egg and the milk, and that was all ready to go, and now I'm combining the rest that needs to be mixed together for the baked oatmeal. My baby specifically loves baked oatmeal. I found that oatmeal is kind of messy. I like to have options that she can feed herself, just so she can learn in that way. And obviously she's gonna have to learn how to eat regular oatmeal at some point, but it's just, you know, regular oatmeal is pretty messy, but baked oatmeal has been really, really easy to give to her, and she can just grab big pieces of it and it works really well. So if you have young babies or toddlers, that has been one that my baby especially has just loved. She tears it up. She eats so much of it, and that's even without the apples being in it, the other oatmeal options that I've tried. So I think she's really gonna love it with the apple options included as well. I got a couple different apple recipes so that when I got a bag of apples, I could use all of them up at once and just be done with that. The next breakfast option is not one that we regularly have week to week, but I wanted to try it. So we are making sourdough donuts for the first time. So obviously with this one, I'll probably do a side of like eggs that I'll just whip up on the day of that takes, you know, like 5 minutes or something, because just sourdough donuts by themselves, obviously, you know, they probably need a little bit of protein to help with that. But this is a recipe that I've been wanting to try, so I went ahead and did it for this video. This is also my first time doing this recipe, so I will share with you what I learned. One thing I'll note, as you can see here when I'm pulling it out, is that I definitely left them in a little longer. I'm the kind of person that likes to follow a recipe as closely as I can the first time that I do it, and so I was following the recipe and the time that they gave that you should leave the donuts in there, but I think my donuts were actually a little bit smaller than theirs for whatever reason, and so they just cooked a little bit faster. So they are a little bit brown. They weren't burnt by any means, but they were just a little more brown than I would have liked. I think really, honestly, it mattered more on aesthetic than it did anything else, because they still tasted absolutely delicious. So after I fried them and heated up all the oil, then I'm coating them in a little bit of cane sugar, and I'm just doing that to every one. We grabbed, I think, 2 or 4 of them, and we coated those in powdered sugar instead, just to see if we liked that better, so that we had both options. But the majority of them I'm just getting coated in this just organic cane sugar that I had from Aldi, because Aldi is, you know, the best. And then we're gonna let those donuts cool for a little bit, and I'm working on cutting up some more apples, which I could have prepped and just done them all at once. I just didn't think about that, to be honest, so you could save some time and cut up all the apples at once instead of in 2 different sections. And I'm cutting these up for the baked apple oatmeal, so this will go and get mixed in with all of the oats and the egg and milk and everything else that we already got combined. So I'm mixing together that egg and milk mixture with the oats and the seasonings that we already did, getting that all stirred together, adding the butter and whisking everything together and making sure that it is really well combined. Then I'm going to go ahead and spread out all the apples on the bottom of a 9x13 pan so that I can bake that in the oven. My son is sitting here and he wanted to help a little bit with this part of it. My kids love to watch when I'm cooking and help like in any way that they can. They are obsessed with helping, and I think it's really sweet. So I try to let them help as much as I can. And now we're just topping the apples with the whole mixture that we made for the oatmeal. So all the oats and the egg and the milk and seasonings, everything all together, just pouring that right on the top. Super easy, super simple. And then we're gonna put that in the oven. Okay, and while the baked oatmeal bakes, we're going to prep the last breakfast item I have. So I'm making granola here is what I'm showing, but I actually already prepped some yogurt. We get raw milk from a local farm not too far away from us. We actually had dairy goats for a long time, and so we had raw milk right in our backyard. But now that we no longer have dairy goats, we go get raw milk from our friends, and I have been making yogurt from that, which ironically I actually had never even made yogurt when we had the dairy goats, which is kind of funny, but I'm able to do that now with buying the raw milk, and it's been really yummy. It's been really easy to make, but that would take more than an afternoon, because for us at least it usually takes about 12 to 24 hours depending on how long you want it in the Instant Pot for. I use an Instant Pot recipe that I'd be happy to show sometime on here, so comment down below if you want to see that. But that would take a little longer than a few hours. It's not something that takes a lot of active time, but it does take, you know, it has to be in the slow cooker for like 12 to 24 hours. So anyways, this is a very easy breakfast option. So I am restocking our granola to go with this to fill out the rest of the meals that I have for this week, because then we can have our yogurt, we can have granola to go with it, or even if it's a busy morning, I also will let my kids, not very often because it takes a lot of granola, but I do let them if they want cereal. We don't really buy cereal. We've never really been big cereal people. A healthier cereal alternative that we will do is let them have granola with milk as their cereal like option. And so we don't do that a ton, but sometimes when it's a really busy morning and you just need something quick, we will do that, and they really enjoy it. So that's what I'm prepping this for, is to kind of fill the gaps of the other meals I have, because personally for us, to kind of explain the rundown of what I've shared, the pita pockets will be 2 days worth of meals for us. The donuts will be 2 days worth of meals, especially if I put like a scrambled egg or something on the side with that to give them some protein, obviously. And then the baked oatmeal will be about 3 days worth of meals. And then the Dutch baby was just 1 day. So that altogether is 8 days already. And then I have the granola to kind of fill the gaps, so then I can do a little bit of yogurt with granola if we want to do a little parfait or something on the side to give them a little bit more protein and give them something on the side of a few of the other options. Okay, also I did want to quickly mention that if you've noticed in the filming, this is actually the next morning that I decided to fill the donuts. On the specific day that I was filming, my whole idea for this video was sharing with you how you can prep a week's worth of breakfast in one afternoon. However, the day I was filming, I ended up with some sick kiddos, so I had to take a break from filming, obviously, to take care of them, and I ended up just putting it away for the evening. I came back and did some of it in the evening, and it just wasn't really working out very well, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna put this away and I'll come back in the morning to just finish this. So it did take me specifically longer than one afternoon, but that was only because I had sick kids and I had to stop and obviously take care of them and give them my full attention, and I didn't want to be balancing that between trying to film and finish up what I was doing. So if you were doing this consecutively, it should only take you one afternoon. I would say on average, maybe 3 hours, maybe even a little less than that. It was very doable. It worked really well, and it did provide over a week's worth of breakfast for us. And I don't know, I think this is just a really easy way to bulk prep some items and make your life a little bit easier. If you desire to cook more from scratch, you could do this with any meal of the day, really. But I've found that batching tasks together can often like alleviate just a lot of the overwhelm that surrounds that. I do that in a lot of different areas of life. I share a lot of these things here on the channel. But anytime that I can batch things together to like really focus in on that task for an extended period, but then get way more done than I would just having like 15 minutes here and 15 minutes there, I found that that really helps. We're all trying to figure out ways that we can like sustainably get things done while still being present with our family, and batching these breakfasts together definitely was a rhythm that I really enjoyed. So I'm probably going to incorporate this a lot more in the future, specifically for breakfast, because that is just a problem area for us that I feel like I don't have quite as much time to dedicate to making from scratch options every single morning, you know, day after day. And also, let me just say, even though these donuts were a little bit brown, they turned out absolutely amazing. My husband was actually raving about them, and he really wants me to try a jam-filled one next. So we will be doing more of these donuts in the future, and we'll link the recipe down below if you want to try it as well. Thank you so much for joining me for another video. I hope you found something encouraging in this, that you found maybe some ways that you can batch some things together to make things a little bit less overwhelming or just less hectic in your own life. And I would love for you to comment down below if you're new and you just found my channel. I would love to meet you and know where you're from and how many kids you have. I just love to get to know you in that way. So if you're not new around here, thank you so much for watching another video, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Bye, friends.